Uhuru. I'm Valerie Bronte of Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and this is the January 12th Solidarity Spear Study Live. And I want to welcome everybody. Come into the study and share this to your timeline. Share this to groups that you think would be interested in seeing this. Invite friends, family, and comrades that you think need to be a part of this discussion today. This is a very historic Solidarity Spear Study Live. We get to share with you breaking news and breaking victories of the Uhuru movement and the African People's Socialist Party in the city of African Resistance, St. Petersburg, Florida. We have special guests, South Regional Coordinator and Chair of Uhuru Solidarity Movement, St. Pete Branch, and Chair of the National Branch Building Committee of Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and Hirsch will be joining us later on today to discuss the historic victories of the Uhuru movement against the government of the city of St. Pete and their intention to lock down the African working class community during the MLK Day celebrations like they did last year in 2018, much to the outrage and organized political actions of the Uhuru movement to stand against police containment of the African working class community of South St. Petersburg during the MLK Day celebrations. So again, I want to say that I'm Valerie Bronte of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. Uhuru, we are the organization of white people. We are organizing for white reparations to African people, working under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party. We have three principles of unity. We work under the leadership of and are accountable to the African People's Socialist Party. African people have the right to lead their own struggle. And number three, we organize in the white community for reparations. So we are not a white savior group. We are not a part of the white left. We are part of the strategy to forward the revolutionary demand for reparations into the white community, into the belly of the beast. And I see that we have 9 viewers. I want to say welcome and Uhuru to everyone coming in. Uhuru is the Swahili word for freedom. In Solidarity Movement, we're called upon to use the word Uhuru, just like everyone in the Uhuru movement is called upon to use the word Uhuru as a greeting, as a salutation, as a statement of unity, to keep freedom on our minds 24/7, keep African liberation on our minds 24/7. So who is the African People's Socialist Party? It is led by Chairman Omali Yeshitela. It was founded in 1972. It was formed by the merging of 3 organizations. JOMO, the junta of militant organizations, the Black Rights Fighters from Fort Myers, Florida, the Black Study Group of Gainesville, Florida. And the African People's Socialist Party leads the struggle of the African working class and the oppressed masses of the world against U.S. capitalist colonialist domination and all the manifestations of oppression that result from that relationship. The party recognizes that the particular character of oppression of African people within the U.S. is domestic or internal colonialism. The party recognizes that Black people are not a race. They are a nation of people whose birthright is Africa and all of its resources for Africans everywhere at home and abroad. So the essential contradiction that is facing colonized people today is colonialism, is not racism, is the theft of resources from colonialism that was perpetrated by the first European attack against Africa in the 1400s. So that is what the party believes. As white people, as part of the African People's Solidarity Committee, which was formed in 1976 by the African People's Socialist Party to definitively answer the question of white people. What is the principled way for white people to stand in solidarity with the struggle for African liberation? And that answer is by forwarding the revolutionary demand for reparations, for the return of the stolen, hoarded resources of capitalism that are found within the white community, the root of capitalism being the hundreds of years of chattel slavery, the stolen lives and labor of African people, which form the primitive accumulation with which Marx talks about as being the genesis of capitalism. So that is the essence of the political understanding of African internationalism, and that colonialism is the root contradiction that must be overturned to have African liberation. So African internationalism is the perspective of the Burning Spear newspaper. It is the materialist political philosophy developed by Chairman Omali Yeshitela and advanced by the African People's Socialist Party. So the Burning Spear newspaper is the voice of the international African revolution. It is a print and online newspaper published by the African People's Socialist Party. It's affiliated with the African liberation movement worldwide, and it understands the world through the material conditions that are faced by the African working class. It is the perspective of the African working class, and it is written in the political and analytical style of African internationalism. So it's oldest Black Power newspaper in existence, published without interruption since 1968. And the reason we study it in solidarity is, as white people, we cannot properly articulate the conditions of colonialism from our perspective as the oppressor. We are on the pedestal of oppression, of colonial domination of the world. And we have to study under the leadership of the African working class to understand how to effectively carry out the strategy for African liberation. So I want to say Uhuru, and thank you for everyone for joining. I want to shout out my comrades who are tuning in right now, tuning in from Spokane, Washington. Uhuru, that is Kristen Forthen. Awesome to see you, comrade. Uhuru, Ali, Flo Ayello, tuning in from Boston. Uhuru, awesome to see you, comrade. Ben Rosenzweig, Uhuru from St. Louis. Uhuru, comrade, can't wait to meet you at the USM convention, April 14th and 15th in St. Louis. Uhuru and Hirsch will be joining us later on in the program from St. Petersburg. Uhuru Evan Garner joining us from Asheville, North Carolina. Evan. Oh, I also wanted to be sure to mention the open meetings for organizing that Evan will be having at Firestorm Books. We will discuss all the open meetings for Uhuru Solidarity Movement later on in the live stream. Uhuru Jackson Hollingsworth from St. Pete. Uhuru Comrade, Uhuru Comet Crowbar, Uhuru Comrade Hallie tuning in from Boston. All right, fabulous, fabulous. Uhuru Diane Tournay tuning in from Gainesville, Florida. Uhuru Paula Lipsy tuning in from Arizona. Thank you for sharing. Yes, share this to your timeline. Share this to groups and share this, invite people, specifically friends, family, and comrades that you think need to hear about how white people can be in principled solidarity with African liberation. So as Martin Luther King Day approaches, it's important for everybody to understand that one of the largest Martin Luther King Day celebrations that's had in the United States happens in St. Petersburg, Florida every year. And it has historically been a place for the African working class community to celebrate the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and to have a day of celebration of the community. And that includes vending, concessions, and music, merriment, all of the things that one would expect with a street festival of, and as we see cities all over the country, all stand to gain greatly economically from street festivals. So it's important to understand the particular type of attack that was happening last year with the St. Petersburg police against vending and concessions, and the type of containment of the opportunities for economic benefit that were kept away from the African working class community. So this article is by the director of the Department of Agitprop of the African People's Socialist Party, Director Akila Anai. I want to salute, first and foremost, the opportunity to have this study today was given to us by the chairman definitively answering the question of how white people can take a principled stance in the liberation struggle for African people. And so I want to salute Chairman Amalia Shatella of the African People's Socialist Party. And I want to salute Deputy Chair Ona Zaneya Shatella of the African People's Socialist Party, who leads all the economic work, bringing the chairman's vision to material reality on the streets of St. Petersburg, Florida, of Oakland, California, of Huntsville, Alabama, of and certainly St. Louis, Missouri, the home of the Black Power Blueprint, which is, you will talk more about the Black Power Blueprint and why it's so important later on in the program. But these are the programs that we've been talking about all year, the victories that we've been sharing with you all year. And that is the victory of the leadership of the undisputed vanguard of the African working class, the African People's Socialist Party. So salute to the African People's Socialist Party, and salute to the director of Agitprop, which publishes the Burning Spear newspaper, and the managing editor of the Burning Spear newspaper, Olufin Akemba, who has recently relocated to the city of African resistance, St. Petersburg, Florida, and is doing a powerful job leading the newspaper there. So this is a great article. I can't wait to share with you our special guest and the breaking news we have of the Uhuru movement victory over the St. Pete government. So please join us on theburningspear.com. It's on. The St. Pete city government wants to shut down MLK, and we're taking MLK back. From January 1st, 2019, Akile Anai. There's a photo of Dr. King. It says St. Petersburg, Florida, the national holiday set aside to remember the iconic African martyr, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., holds its largest celebration in this city. A day primarily acknowledged only by the Black community, it is a time for us to come together and remember King for his contributions to our struggle to be a free, independent people. The Southside Black community made a tradition of lining MLK Street, wearing our finest clothes, driving candy-painted cars, listening and dancing to music, hearing the sounds of marching bands, and vending food, clothes, jewelry, you name it. In a city where the government has successfully wiped out Black businesses and set public policies that prevent us from having any kind of economic life. MLK Day served to bring business to a lot of Black vendors in the city and across the country. Half of Black vendors' income was reported to come from MLK Day alone. It's really the only time that our community has to buy, trade, and sell amongst ourselves, something white people have the luxury of doing all the time. It was the one time out of the year our community could come out and be unapologetically Black. But over the last decade, the city government has made drastic changes to this celebration through gentrification, police containment, and economic quarantines. And changes could be seen gradually each year, the festivities on MLK being shut down earlier, the parade rerouting to go downtown to the white community. It reached a height last year when 2 weeks before MLK Day, the Kreisman regime, through the police chief, Anthony Holloway, enforced a restriction on Black vendors on MLK Street. The only vending options offered was at Tropicana Field, the baseball dome that is built atop one of the most historic Black communities of St. Pete, which is completely removed from the African community. In addition to the ban of this vending, they locked down our community. The presence of the police overwhelmed us. The pigs were on every corner of the South Side, preventing us from coming in or out. It was beyond causing disruption to traffic. It was a threat. It was intimidation. It was a complete stranglehold on our community. Chairman Amalia Shatella, leader and founder of the Uhuru movement, characterized the scene of the police occupation as, quote, Palestine on steroids, end quote. The event that we coined as the MLK lockdown sparked outrage amongst Southside Black community. The Uhuru movement makes no mistake that the reason for this military occupying force being in the Black community is to ensure that our self-determination could never cause an issue for the ever-expanding downtown high-rises and condos that bring with them more parasitic investors and gentrifiers. In short, all of these actions are to make the city white through and through. The sellout police chief said that the only apology he'll make to the Black community is not putting us on notice ahead of time. The notice, however, has gone out early. Their warning to us was the taking of MLK Day last year. This year, we are putting the city on notice. To every government official, every white gentrifier, every sellout, we say it's on. Be like King. When the U.S. government killed King and in turn gave us a holiday to keep our mouths shut, they hurriedly sanitized King's image so that the movement he had inspired would never rear its head again. They told us the reasons we should love him were because he was for peace and nonviolence. They tell us to be like King so they can continue their violence and brutalization of our community. Taking back MLK Day requires us to be truly like King, to mobilize thousands of people and criticize the status quo, to fight back against oppressive policies of police containment through civil disobedience. This was not the King we were taught to love, but it is the King we intend to be like come this MLK Day. We are going to disrupt everything the city has in place. Where they say we can't go, we are going to be. When they attempt to enforce a curfew, we will stay as long as we please. We will then and defend those who choose to. We will fight for this community no matter what. We've seen the power of the Southside Black community. We have pushed back the same police, the same city government, and won. We're calling on you to be a part of this effort to take back MLK Day. We're calling on you to be like King. Fists up and fight back. We're calling on 10,000 guerrilla shock troops to take to the streets this coming January 21st to defend our community. We want everyone to come out to the Black Power 96 FM radio hosted Freedom Mic 727 Community Festival, where we will have live performances and the only vending on the South Side. It's free, family friendly, and we won't have to worry about the pigs trying to shut us down. This event is to be held at the Uhuru House. If they try to stop us from celebrating MLK Day, we will rise up. We will also be meeting to plan around this event, as well as the overall MLK Day every Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m. at the Uhuru House. All members of the community are called on to participate in this mobilization strategy to take back what belongs to us, our Black businesses, our Black community, and our MLK Day. It's on. Take back MLK Day. Make the South Side Black again. We're putting St. Pete on notice. Uhuru. This is such a powerful article. It is a powerful call to action for not only everyone in St. Pete, but all over the country to understand the essential contradictions of gentrification and police containment in the Black community, and to understand how parasitic capitalist investors are destroying the African working class communities all across the country, and how white people can take a stand against gentrification and do something to help the Black community have self-determination and economic development in its own hands, and have resources in control of those resources in their own hands. So I want to say, Uhuru, welcome everyone who's coming on today. I'm Valerie Bronte of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and this is the January 12th Burning Spear study, the Solidarity Spear Study Live. I want to say Uhuru to everyone just tuning in. We just finished Director Akile Anai's article about taking back MLK Day in St. Petersburg, the city of African resistance. I would like to introduce the South Regional Coordinator, Chair of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement in St. Pete, and Chair of the National Branch Building Committee of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and Hirsch. And I want to say, go to the split screen right now and just say, Anne is going to be giving us breaking news about the Uhuru movement victory on against the St. Pete government. All right. Welcome, Anne Hirsch. In 3, 2, 1. Uhuru, Anne. Thanks for being on the Solidarity Spear Study today.
Uhuru. Thank you for having me, Valerie.
My pleasure. My pleasure. So I'm really excited to hear from you, to hear the latest developments in St. Petersburg, and to hear about what the Uhuru movement was fighting against, especially last year in St. Pete. Thank you.
Uhuru. Well, hello to everyone on your study, and I first want to salute the Uhuru movement. I've been a volunteer for over 17 years, and what I can tell you is every time that the Uhuru movement sets out to do something in this city, they win. That's what I've seen over and over again. You know, you can count on the brilliant strategy of Chairman Amalia Shatella, the brilliant work of the party getting out in the community, and also the Uhuru Solidarity Movement is called on to go out into the white community here and push forward any campaign. So I just feel very honored to be a part of this work, and to be given the opportunity as a white person to have a principled relationship with the Black community under their leadership. So I just want to talk a little bit more in depth about this parade. For the last 30 years, it's been a tradition in St. Petersburg. It went down MLK Street, deep into the Black community. I was just out tabling today, and a young white woman who's been here for 2 years, I think, said to me, wow, this city has a line right down the middle. It's the most gentrified city I've been in. And that's Central Avenue. And the Black community used to begin at First Avenue South, but a lot of gentrification has happened. So it's pushed back, and it's blocks and blocks in that the white community has pushed into the historic Black community. But on MLK, the parade used to go down MLK Street and end deep in the Black community of the South Side. And I've been honored to be in meetings of the party over this past 2 weeks of this campaign and hear personal anecdotes from different people. So the chairman was talking about how what he looked forward to every year was there were vendors, Black vendors, selling wares that African Black people are interested in. So, you know, it sounded to me like it was like going to an all-African mall, you know, like things that you couldn't get anywhere else. He said he was really excited every year to go and see what the vendors had. Somebody else was talking about the shiny cars. So people would polish their cars and come out and, parking their cars and showing off their cars. An authentic expression of the Black community. People would be dressed in their finest clothes. You know, it's years ago in the 30s, it was called promenading, walking on the streets to be seen. And, it's just a part of the tradition of the Black community. And the vendors that were there would make 50% of their income for the year during this festival. So we're talking about poor working class people who then have an opportunity to vend. And last year, the city completely took that away. They made it illegal for anyone to vend unless they paid $400 to $600 to the Tropicana field. But they completely made it illegal to vend on MLK Street. They took the parade off of MLK Street and took it down to the Tropicana field, which is now a white community. Another contradiction is that Tropicana field was built by destroying one of the historic Black neighborhoods, destroying 100 businesses, destroying 300 homes. The parking lot is over a graveyard. I mean, so this is very horrific genocide against the Black community that built that dome. And so it's a real slap in the face to take Martin Luther King parade out of the Black community and to that dome. So that's what happened last year. And then there was so much police. They weren't just at the heavy intersections to direct traffic. They were on every side street. It was locked down so that people could not move. People at the city council meeting the next week said, what if we needed an ambulance? How would someone have gotten to us? People said that they were asked for IDs. I mean, they were treated extremely rudely by the police. So this year, in order for it not to happen again this year, the Uhuru movement about 3 weeks ago started this campaign, Take Back MLK Day. And they've been going out in the community. They've been having weekly meetings. They requested of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. We have put out over 1,000 flyers door to door. We put out over 1,000 flyers on tables. They created a petition. We've gotten tens of almost 100 signatures on that petition. We've given out position papers that ask people to call the mayor. And the thing that's been really great about this campaign is so many white people can unite with it and come into the process. So then just this past week, the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, who's leading the campaign, had a press conference in front of the city hall, put forward their demands: hands off the vendors, hands off MLK Day, no more police containment. We want economic development. We want an infusion of cash to help develop businesses. to help uplift, and economic development is what we're calling for. But, hands off the vendors, and MLK Day belongs to the Black community. So after that press conference, they went into a city meeting where the city is planning, their alternative to the Black community's authentic traditional celebration. And that, I listened to it. It was the most foul thing. So they take this authentic expression and they created, instead of having it be out on MLK Street, the community doing it, they were going to create a car show with trophies. I mean, it was so condescending. They also, as part of this, have workshops on financial viability. It's like, you don't know how to take care of your finances, we're going to teach you how. After they've eradicated the ability of anyone to make any money. So Akile Anai made an amazing statement, putting them on notice that this was not acceptable, that the Uhuru movement was pushing back against this, that the Black community was going to be out in numbers. They were going to be like King. They were going to disrupt with civil disobedience anything that the city did. And that's also been put out in position papers. In the USM position paper, it said the Black community-led International People's Democratic Uhuru movement plans a massive resistance on the day of the city's MLK parade, pushback against the police lockdown and economic assaults on the poor and oppressed Black working class community. Business as usual will be disrupted for the tourist industry and predatory real estate investors. So, this has been going on for 2 or 3 weeks. And we just found out today, the chairman called an emergency meeting and said the city has capitulated. There will be vendors on MLK. So the vendors will not have to pay any fee, and they will be allowed to vend as traditionally done. But the Uhuru movement doesn't stop there, right? Because we know we can't trust the city. I mean, they've taught us that. They know that they can't trust the city. They can't trust the police. So they're continuing to call. Now they're putting out a big push. They've moved the festivities they were going to have at the Uhuru House actually to MLK, to the Uhuru Gym. And there's a space there for vending. They're going to have music. They're going to have the best gospel, the best R&B, the best rap, spoken word, lots of vending, loud speakers, and they're going out into the community and saying the real MLK celebration is going to be back on MLK, and calling on the community to go there. And I mean, they haven't used this word, but basically boycott what the city's doing. So it's so exciting to be here in the city of African resistance, to be under the leadership of this brilliant strategy. We still need to keep pressure from the white community on the city of St. Petersburg. So we're calling on people to still sign the petition. And when you sign the petition, you really want to say, hands off the vendors, allow the people to gather as long as they want. At one of the meetings, Akenge, who is the administrative assistant to the chairman, or I'm not sure her role, but she's in charge of his office. She was talking about how what the police have done for the last few years, even though they moved last year everything off of MLK, of course people still gathered there. And they take a line of police across the street and they just move down MLK and intimidate people to go home. I got to tell you that 10 p.m. is the noise ordinance. This happens at dusk. So it's 6, maybe 7 p.m. that this happens, just completely not allowing the African community to gather. When in St. Petersburg, there's a pride parade.
Yes.
There's first night, which we were out there at a table, white people all out everywhere drinking, alcohol in cups in their hands. One policeman we saw sort of sauntering, looking bored, walking around. no complete police containment. And this went on into the night, you know. So there's two Americas, there's two St. Petersburgs very clearly. We also want people to call the mayor. So I know our moderator, Johan, salute to him. He's putting out the phone number for the mayor. You want to call.
And the petition, yeah.
And
everyone should sign the petition, yeah. Because
Yes.
it's not just about the vending, and that's why the party is just, we have to salute the party for just the exemplary leadership, because it's always about advancing not only the economic opportunity, but the self-determination, like get rid of the police. The police lockdown on the south side of St. Pete is unconscionable. And and the community won't stand for it anymore. No, Palestine on steroids.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, it's we need to be like MLK, and there is still the possibility of civil disobedience. You know, the Uhuru movement knows that they still may need to employ that, so that will be planned. We have an event January 17th, this coming Thursday, that people can come to, or they can tune in on Uhuru Solidarity Movement St. Pete on Facebook to see it live, where they'll be talking about to the white community what we can do. Also on every Sunday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern time, tomorrow and next Sunday, they'll be laying out what are the things that they're planning, because they're going to have everything in reserve. They know what needs to be done, and they're going to have the ability to do it. But really, they've made such a major victory, because what the chairman was summing up is, we want to be able to do what we want to do. We want to be able to vend. We want to be able to gather. We want to be able to celebrate. And the pressure from the Uhuru movement has now brought back one of the biggest pieces, which is the economic development piece. And now we have to keep the pressure on from the white community, letting them know, letting the mayor and the city council know that we don't approve of this police containment, and we don't approve of the lockdown and the lack of the ability of the Black community to gather, or the criminalization and acting like the Black community are thugs. It's just completely unacceptable to us. And so we're going to keep pushing as long as Impedum asks us to push forward. And I really appreciate being able to be here and let people know. And I really want to call on everyone in this study, and everyone who's on this study who knows someone else, who knows someone else, who knows someone else. We want thousands of calls to the mayor. Even if it'd be great if you do it this weekend, so that they come back on Monday and their voicemail is full. It'd be great if you sign the petition. Let's get this up to thousands and thousands of people from around the nation. Make sure when you sign the petition, really speak your truth about why you signed it. There's a place where you can do that, because that's being copied directly to the mayor.
Uhuru. Thank you, Anne. That is, it's just really important for everyone out there to know that the United States, the United Snakes, has historically it has been the policy of the United States to prevent self-determination, economic development in the African working class community, and that the white working class has always been ready, at the ready, to carry out orders, to be the lynch mob, to be the police, to be the militias, intimidating and terrorizing the African working class communities all around the country. And this is what we're seeing here in South St. Pete, which is already under attack from gentrification, which is another, important mobilization of the Uhuru movement against gentrification, is the Communities United for Reparations and Economic Development, which is chaired by African People's Socialist Party Director Agitprop Akile Anai, and vice chaired by the Uhuru Solidarity Movement National Chair Jesse Neville. That's an important local mobilization that is going to be in every city as it builds momentum, and as people are able to see that the African People's Socialist Party and the Uhuru movement is the undisputed vanguard advancing African liberation and Black self-determination all around the world, especially in Europe and Africa. There's no other organizing force that can say that at this moment, as many people and as many actions and as many victories have been mobilized under the leadership of the chairman of the African People's Socialist Party, Amalia Shatella. So I want to salute, the opportunity to be a part of this political education that I do every week as part of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, and then, the honor to carry out the revolutionary demand for reparations into the white community and to bring African internationalism into social media, into the white community. And I just want to, again, thank Anne for sharing with us this important breaking news that because of the Uhuru movement, because of the mobilization of the Uhuru movement, economic opportunities have returned to South St. Pete, have returned to the MLK Day celebration on MLK Street. And without the mobilization of the people like you and me signing petitions right now, calling the mayor's office right now. Everything that is done in the Uhuru movement is not organized by by the Democratic Party or by George Soros. It's not funded by anything other than white people returning the stolen resources hoarded in their communities, and the volunteers that are part of this movement that make everything happen. So this is a very important thing to understand, that this is truly grassroots, truly progressive, and truly anti-colonial and anti-imperial. When you support the programs of the Uhuru movement, supporting economic development for the Black community, control resources in the hands of the African working class community, that is what is going to make the difference. That is going to form the economic basis for the liberation of African people on their terms, on their timeline. So as a part of a Uhuru Solidarity Movement, we raise reparations every day of the year, and we raise reparations every week on this Solidarity Spear Study Live. And our goal today for reparations resources returned to support the programs of the Black Power Blueprint, which I will discuss in a little bit, is $75. So $75, if somebody's got $75 to pledge today to uhurusolidarity.org/donate/pay-reparations. And our moderator, salute Johan, will put that link in the comment. And for appreciation of the opportunity we have to study the political education of African internationalism, and to, just develop our unity, our deeper political unity with the task at hand that urgently needs to be carried out, which is to advance the African liberation movement in the white community and take a stand against gentrification and police containment and a police lockdown of MLK celebrations, especially in the city of African resistance, St. Petersburg, Florida. So if you want to put your pledge in the comment, I'd love to announce it. But we have so many things to announce, and I have 22 minutes left. So I definitely want to let you know about all the incredible events that are coming up in a little bit. But first, we have to talk about the Burning Spear newspaper. The Burning Spear newspaper, if you are not a subscriber, if you are not a distributor, you need to go to the burningspearmarketplace.com and sign up to distribute, to buy, to subscribe to buy a subscription for a prisoner of the Burning Spear newspaper, the only revolutionary newspaper that's been in existence for now 50 years, an uninterrupted publication. This is, as we can see, it's biased. It's a biased publication that advances the worldview of the African working class. The reason that this is so important is because you will not ever see in any mainstream media, in any of the bourgeois media, the perspectives presented here, because those perspectives they must uphold imperialism, just as that's what they're designed for. They're designed to uphold parasitic capitalism and imperialism and Western exceptionalism. So any news perspective where you need to see an anti-colonial, anti-imperialist perspective that puts forward the liberated vision of the liberated vision of the future, where nobody lives at the expense of one another, you need to read the Burning Spear newspaper, because African people will be free, colonized people will be free, they will lead themselves in righteous resistance against imperialism. And it's very important for us to get on board as soon as possible, because it will be a matter of our own self-interest, our own self-defense, to unite with the struggle of colonized people to reclaim their resources. So I want to look at the comments and respond to any questions that anyone has. And be sure, again, to certainly call the mayor's action line and tell them I unite with the demands of the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement, which is the mass organization of the African People's Socialist Party, by the way. Hands off MLK Day. No more attacks on Black vendors on MLK Day. Economic development, not police containment, and reparations now. And yeah, we were talking about how moving to the Tropicana Dome is just, it's a symbolic FU to the African working class community, because the Tropicana Dome, a white community, was built by demolishing the gas plant, the African working class neighborhood where the chairman was grew up. Is that correct, Anne?
Yes, absolutely. That's he lived there, and that the city, did eminent domain and promised economic development to the Black community. And so we see what a lie that was. And we know that anything that they tell us can be a lie. We can't trust them to follow through with what they've said, although we consider it a big victory. We've got to keep up the pressure. And I really want to call on everyone in this study to contribute to this study. The party has called on us to develop the Burning Spear study and to make this into a rally. And this feels like the first opportunity for it really to be a rally, right? Because we have breaking news. And who other than the Uhuru movement has put together this strategy where they're taking back the media. They're taking back the media in the hands of the people with their own media, with the strategies to use the colonial media to their own means. So I really salute you, Valerie, every week. It's so exciting and enlightening to listen to you read, and to also listen to your interpretation, that, how you express what the party has taught us. And so I'm going to be returning $10 today, and I'm calling on everyone who can in this study to match me, to dig deep, because this is so exciting. Where else on the planet can you participate in this way and really change things?
Uhuru. I mean, and really, like, it is such an honor to be a part of this political education and to have the honor to communicate African internationalism, because everything that I'm saying, I could have never come to the conclusion on my own. It was only because I decided to take a stance of reparations and come under the leadership of the African People's Socialist Party and study African internationalism. And that was how I was truly able to understand how reparations as a strategy is an essential component that will defeat colonialism, and that colonialism will not be able to survive. Imperialism will not be able to survive a successful attack of the reparation strategy being successfully executed. And it's just so urgent that we do so, because as we see all over the world, capitalism and imperialism is in crisis. The United States, the Western domination, is losing its grasp because of the righteous resistance of colonized people. And so now more than ever, we have an urgent obligation to take accountability for the 600 years of slavery and genocide that we have benefited from and that we've been complicit with, and to say no more genocide in our name, no more police containment in our name, that we unite with Black community control of police, that we unite with self-determination and economic development in the hands of the African working class, so that nobody's living with the boot of white power on their neck. And that's the beautiful liberated future we need to accelerate to as soon as possible. So I want to unite and also contribute $10, return $10 to the Black Power Blueprint. So let's talk about the Black Power Blueprint and what's going on in St. Louis, Missouri, because it's been absolutely a breakneck pace of rapid victories for the African People's Socialist Party. And I also want to salute, because I see a lot of pledges coming in here in the comments. Not only are we at $20 with Anne and myself, Johan Bedingfield will do $10 today. That brings us to 30. Uhuru, comrades. Uhuru, that's very powerful. Thank you so much for being a consistent supporter of the Solidarity Spear Study. Uhuru, I can pledge in stolen hoarded resources $5 this Monday. Uhuru Evan Garner from Asheville, North Carolina. That gets us up to $40. Kristen Forthen from Spokane, Washington says, I will match Ann. That gets us up to $50. Uhuru Kristen, that's very powerful. Always a massive supporter of the Solidarity Spear Study Live. Diane Tournay from Gainesville, Florida. Uhuru, I will return $10. That gets us up to $60. Uhuru. And then our comrade from Spokane, Washington, who has been making beautiful quilts, Jeanette Cruz, I just returned $100. Uhuru, Jeanette, we're at $160 in powerful, powerful, powerful statements of white reparations to African people, supporting the programs for economic development in St. Louis, Missouri, known as the Black Power Blueprint. So phase one of the Black Power Blueprint, which has already been a victory, which opened its doors in April of 2018, was the Uhuru House and Aquaba Hall meeting place. That was a dilapidated building, a rundown, just wreck of a building that was magically transformed by the community, by the volunteer brigade, the NTU Volunteer Brigade by Sherwin Williams was donating paint. Job Corps students were bringing their skills. Local contractors were bringing their skills to create a liberated territory for the African working class in St. Louis, Missouri. So the Aquaba Hall and at the Uhuru House on 4101 West Florissant in the O'Fallon neighborhood of North St. Louis opened its doors in 2018, and it is absolutely beautiful. We had the Uhuru Solidarity Movement National Convention there. The Black is Back Coalition had their annual meeting there a week before us last April, and we'll be back there April 14th and 15th for the Uhuru Solidarity Movement National Convention in 2019. Uhuru, salute to Ali Flo Ayello. I'm putting in $10. We're at $170. Uhuru, comrades. This is so powerful. This is reparations in action. Studying under the leadership of the African working class, returning the stolen hoarded resources, forming an economic basis for African liberation. Just as there's an economic basis for oppression, which we saw with colonialism, with parasitic capitalism formed by chattel slavery and stolen labor of African people. There will be an economic basis for the oppression because, as the chairman teaches us, the political and the economic are one. So we are returning $170 today in stolen resources. That is so powerful. Even more powerful than that is joining Uhuru Solidarity Movement and being a part of this work. So I want to tell you about all the wonderful events that we have coming up. Keep the pledges coming because, I didn't even finish talking about Black Power Blueprint. So phase two was 2 dilapidated buildings across the street from the Uhuru House in St. Louis. They needed to come down. And of course, the city would not help the Uhuru movement. So the African People's Education and Defense Fund, which is leading the Black Power Blueprint, they raised the money to tear down the dilapidated buildings and clear the lot. It's a beautiful double lot for community gardens, the Gary Brooks Community Gardens, which already has 4 beautiful fruit-bearing trees, a cherry, a plum, I think a pear tree and an apple tree. And this spring we'll be breaking ground on the community garden itself. And that will also be another liberated economic territory for the North St. Louis neighborhood, because that will host the One Africa, One Nation marketplace, which has been going on in Philly for over 15 years. And that is now going to be able to happen in St. Louis because of the Black Power Blueprint. Phase 3, which is going to be a huge undertaking in 2019, will see the opening of the Uhuru Jiko Community Commercial Kitchen on Goodfellow Boulevard in North St. Louis, in a gorgeous space that also will have a huge lot for a community garden and indoor and outdoor venue space for entertainment. It will be a place for the African community to meet and greet and eat. And then we'll also house it will be the new flagship location of Uhuru Foods and Pies, which is an economic institution of Black Star Industries that has been going strong under the leadership of the party, with delicious foodstuffs and pies and concessions. They will have a flagship location in St. Louis, Missouri, at the Uhuru Chico Community Commercial Kitchen, where local people from the community can come and jumpstart their own businesses. There will be an African independence workforce training program where people transitioning from incarceration back into the community will have housing and entrepreneurship and job training resource access. So that is all super powerful, the most positive program on the planet. That is what all of the resources raised in this study will be going to. And I just want to salute again, $170 returned to this study. So without further ado, we do have plenty of fabulous events coming up, especially this Tuesday, January 15th. We're going at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Facebook and YouTube. Reclaim the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. This is a live YouTube interview with Chairman Amalia Shatella discussing how the government assassinated Martin Luther King because he fought for the justice for Black people and the struggle against police occupation, blocking the MLK Day celebration in the African community. So you're going to go to youtube.com/Black Power Blueprint and subscribe to that channel. Make sure you get a notification when we go live. January 16th, Drag Imperialism to Its Grave drag show, a reparations challenge at Propaganda St. Louis on 2732 Cherokee Street in St. Louis. That is hosted by Uhuru Solidarity Movement St. Louis. The link will be in the comments. On January 17th, like Ann had mentioned, in St. Petersburg, Florida, Hands Off MLK Day. It's an informative meeting introducing the International People's Democratic Uhuru Movement campaign to take back the MLK Day celebration in the hands of the poor and working class Black community of St. Petersburg, Florida. January 21st, so there's going to be 4 different locations nationwide for you to volunteer with the Uhuru Movement for the Martin Luther King Day of Service, the National Day of Service. So January 21st, Uhuru Foods and Pies and Uhuru Furniture and Collectibles in Oakland, that's California. Their MLK Day event and volunteer project will be going on January 21st as well in Philly. Uhuru Furniture and Collectibles in Philly will also have its MLK Day event and volunteer project, and that contact information will be posted in the comments. The African People's Education and Defense Fund Black Power Blueprint MLK Day event and volunteer project will happen in St. Louis on the 21st as well. And then there will be an All African People's Development Empowerment Project and Zenzele Consignment MLK Day event and volunteer project. And that will be in Huntsville, Alabama. So no matter where you are, there is something happening nearby on the Southeast, in the Midwest, and in the South, and in the Northeast. So you can be a part of that. On April 14th and 15th, Uhuru Solidarity Movement, again, is going to have its 2019 National Convention, and that's going to be at the Aquaba Hall and Uhuru House, the beautiful Aquaba Hall and Uhuru House. Early bird registration has ended, but tickets are available now. Register today and make your plans today to make it as easy and enjoyable is always to plan in advance. Sundays at 8 a.m., that's tomorrow morning, and every Sunday at 8 a.m., you want to be sure to catch the Omali Taught Me Political Study with Chairman Amalia Shatella. You can watch it live on YouTube or on Facebook. And then every Saturday, make sure that you're subscribing to Uhuru Solidarity Movement's page so you can see when we go live with the Solidarity Spear Study live every Saturday, which is going to be transforming very soon, expanding and programming. It will be an hour and a half, and we will be talking with Uhuru Solidarity Movement members all over the country, sharing our outreach victories and sharing our victories selling the Burning Spear newspaper in the white community. So we have plenty of meetings, open meetings coming up for you to be a part of Uhuru Solidarity Movement, learn more about what it means to be a white person in principled solidarity with African liberation. And every Monday at 7 p.m. at the USM New York City open meeting is at the Uhuru Solidarity Center at TBG 616 East 9th Street in New York. Mondays, 6:30 p.m., USM Boston has its open meeting at the Boston Public Library at Copley Square in the Newsfeed Cafe. Mondays, 6 p.m., USM St. Louis has its open meeting at the Lemp Neighborhood Arts Center. And you can contact St. Louis at uhurusolidarity.org or go to facebook.com/USMSTL to learn more about that. Mondays, 6 p.m. in St. Pete, Uhuru Solidarity Movement St. Pete has its open meeting at Panera Bread, 1908 4th Street North, and the organizing for reparations and solidarity with the Black community demands for economic development and Black community controls of schools, police, housing, and food. Uhuru. So Thursdays, we now have an open Philly a USM Philly open meeting, and it's at Good Karma Cafe, 928 Pine Street, Philadelphia. Last meeting at Good Karma Cafe, I want to report Comrade Connor Voss, who also held the Solidarity Spear Study live for almost 6 months. I want to salute Connor. 24 people were in attendance at the USM Philly open meeting last week. So I want to definitely salute Philly building. That is so exciting. If you want to be a part of building the 2019 USM convention, the meetings are Fridays at 11 a.m. If you want to learn more about that, you got to email info@uhurusolidarity.org. Saturday, February 2nd, I am delighted to announce at 3 p.m. will be the first open meeting for USM Louisville, Kentucky. And that will be at Heine Brothers Coffee on 1250 Bardstown Road. And tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time will be the Take the Reparations Challenge, the Reparations Challenge open mass meeting. And that's every Sunday at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if your head is spinning because we have so many events going on right now and you need to keep it all organized, you're going to want to get a Planet Uhuru 2019 calendar created by our very own comrade Comet Crowbar, aka Hallie Murray of Planet Uhuru, and we're going to have an incredible time keeping everything that we have to keep track of this year, as Uhuru Solidarity Movement is, of course, going to continue to raise over $100,000 to the African People's Socialist Party as part of our reparations schedule, and building the Black Power Blueprint. It's just an incredible time to be able to take this stance, to have this opportunity to get on the right side of history, to get on the side that is not parasitically draining the entire planet of all of its resources, because as we see, time is running out. Capitalism is killing the planet. And capitalism has already devastated the cultures and peoples of the world. And as white people, we have to say no more genocide in our name, and we're taking a stand. We are divesting of white power. We are divesting of parasitic capitalism, and we are returning the resources to form a basis for liberation of all people, so no one lives at the expense of the others. So I want to salute Ann Hirsch for her leadership over the South, and the Uhuru Solidarity Movement St. Pete. That's really, really exciting. I want to salute the solidarity leadership here in the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. Our chair, Jesse Neville, who is an incredible leader that I look up to and find just his stance and action just completely exemplary. And that is because we have this opportunity as white people to organize because of the African People's Socialist Party forming the African People's Solidarity Committee in 1976. And the first person to take the stance of reparations to African people, the chairwoman of the African People's Solidarity Committee, Penny Hess. I want to salute Penny Hess for her leadership as well. I want to salute everybody who participated in this wonderful appeal, which raised $170 to the Black Power Blueprint. I can't wait to see you at an upcoming open meeting in New York City. I can't wait to see you at the MLK Day, Volunteer Day in Philadelphia. I can't wait to see you at the Uhuru Solidarity Movement National Convention, April 14th and 15th in 2019 at the beautiful Aquaba Hall at the Uhuru House in St. Louis. So again, it's almost 7 o'clock. Uhuru, thank you very much. I'm still a little sick, so I do have this terrible voice thing. Hopefully it'll be gone by next week, but Salute to Anne. Salute to the party for making this possible. Salute to all of our
Yeah.
participants today. Deeply appreciate this incredible article we had the opportunity to study. So again, salute to Director Akile Anai. Uhuru. Anything else you'd like to say in closing, Anne?
Reparations now.
Reparations now and unity through reparations.
Reparations.
Uhuru. Thank you.
Uhuru.